So I want to start off with something that most firms face is a traditional accounting firm. We've got 15,000 accounting firms in Australia alone. And the traditional firm, why do you think it's so hard for a traditional firm to implement Microsoft Power BI?
I think it's hard for people to implement Power BI because they don't fundamentally understand what it is. Okay. What a lot of people see it is as a reporting platform. And what I try and communicate and explain to people is that it's more like Excel 2.0. Okay, so it's actually an evolution of reporting platform, and just a bit like when Excel was released in 1985, somewhere around about that. It took years for it to gain prevalence and people to work out what it actually did. I think Power BI is a little bit the same. Like Power BI officially has been around for like 5 years now. It has been around a little bit longer in terms of some of its functionality inside Excel. But I think that that's why firms are finding it hard to implement, is they see it as a reporting platform, not as an actual evolution and extension of Excel and what they do inside Excel. So they've got a short-term view of, I want to do dashboards. Okay. Rather, what I want people to do is to say, actually think Power BI is actually reporting dashboards. That's really one component of it, but it's actually a fantastic analytical tool to actually deliver value to clients and internally around. So I think that short-term view of what Power BI is actually a lot of what makes it hard for firms to implement, because it seems like it only covers off a small part of what they want to do. I think that most people have a short or fixed viewpoint of what Power BI can do. I think they realize what it can actually do for the business. There'd actually be a lot more effort and time spent inside organizations working out that this is to be implemented properly, not just downloaded, start using and hope for the best kind of thing.
So is what you're saying, are you saying that you think like firms are seeing Power BI as the new whiz bang tool for reporting, and they just think they're just going to plug it in and get even better outcomes than before, rather than it should be looked at as, you're saying it should be looked at as an evolution of Excel, in the sense that you can use it to interact with it, like not just consume it. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So I think this is the thing, is I think that a lot of people use Power BI as a consumption device. And I think a lot of that has actually been borne by the different software vendors that are out there. So yeah, all our different vendors all have their own Power BI reporting packs. Okay. But the problem is that because they're locked down to a particular platform, you're not able to interact with them in terms of plugging in other bits of software, that we've become to know it as something that you just look at to get a result, rather than actually formulate an answer to. So I think that very much it's viewed by a lot of clients, by a lot of firms, as a consumption rather than a production tool. And I guess that's where we want to change people's mindset, is that I personally think that in 5 years' time, we're going to be using Power BI to do things like analyze transactions, do audits, do compilations of different items, more so than just looking at some numbers in a page. We're actually going to drill down and we're going to analyze businesses, not just consume. But to do that, we need to learn some of the tools in Power BI to be able to do that analysis. I'm not talking about necessarily designing reports. I don't think most firms need to learn how to design reports to any great extent, but I think they need to learn how to interact and understand what the data does.
So going back to the question,
Yeah.
we're basically, like, what we're seeing is that the majority of firms are not able to implement Power BI. And are you suggesting that it's because they're not understanding how to use it properly? They're trying to just literally plug and play it. Is that what the angle that you're trying to mention here?
Correct. So spot on. I do think that we're treating it as a plug and play. I think that we implement it either internally for inside the organization, or we try and implement it for clients. If we're implementing it for clients, I think that there's a lot more potential, by the way, for implementing for clients for advisory work than there is internal. Get it that most people want to start with internal to learn, and that's cool. That's awesome. Get on that learning train. But the real value comes from using it with clients. Now, if we're using it with clients, it's not just a drag and drop. It's part of a strategy. It's part of an advisory process if we're going to use it for clients. So it's about training up people inside the organization on how to use it. It's about understanding the source of the data. It's about understanding how you're going to have a conversation with people as well. So why I think it's hard to implement something like Power BI is because it's not a plug and play. It's because it needs a strategy and a mindset around it for it to work effectively. And look, of course, it can be plug and play, but I think that those who treat it as that don't get the outcomes, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is if you treat it as plug and play, then the best you're going to get is what comes out of the box. And we're advisory firms, we're knowledge workers. Very rarely do you produce the same financial statement for 10 clients. Same thing with this, is there's going to be tweaks and changes that needs to happen to somebody's business. And that's why I don't think it's plug and play, but that's why I think it's also harder to implement, is because we treat it as consumption, not production. Therefore, we don't dedicate resources to it.
Yeah.
So implementing Microsoft Power BI without Atani would be, I would imagine, near on impossible. I wouldn't know where to start. I think accountants really don't have that technical and technological understanding of what it is and how you would pull your client Xero data out of Xero into a warehouse, then into a data. We just don't have that knowledge and that skill set.
I would agree with that, Ken. When we decided to go on this journey, we didn't know really a lot of places where to start, but fortunately I had friends at Power Tynan, and they've got their own company called PT2, which is a Power BI division that builds custom reporting for all sizes of clients. We got them into our office and we did some training. I put myself and about 3 or 4 other staff in that training day. Well, it was actually over 2 days, and we're very fortunate to have Jacinta, who works for us, who was just like a duck to water and just picked it up unbelievably well. And that sort of kickstarted our journey, because it is, this program, Cam, to be honest, is not a silver bullet. You have to do the hard work to make it work. But when you do the hard work, you get a better result. I have no doubts about that.